Ah, Christmas. That magical time of year when we insist that a tree, belongs indoors and absolutely must be covered in lights. It's also the time of year when an ancient Christian bishop, a pagan god of the winter sky, and several centuries of very effective marketing convince us to leave snacks out overnight for a man who does not exist. But Christmas, as it turns out, did not begin as a wholesome festival of family togetherness, goodwill, and aggressively festive jumpers. No, Christmas has a far stranger, messier origin story. So settle in. Pour yourself something warm, mulled wine if you're feeling traditional, tea if you're British, and let's unwrap the long, peculiar history of Christmas. Long before Christmas had carols, candles, or Mariah Carey, winter was, well, bleak. For most of human history, winter wasn't cozy. It was terrifying. The days were short, the nights were long, and food was scarce. If you didn't plan properly, winter could, and often did, kill you. So people did what humans do best when faced with existential dread. They threw parties. Across the ancient world, cultures marked the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, with festivals celebrating light, survival, and the promise that the sun would, eventually, come back. Thank goodness. In ancient Rome, this festival was called Saturnalia, and Saturnalia was not subtle. It involved feasting, drinking, gambling, gift-giving, and, most importantly, turning society upside down. Slaves were allowed to insult their masters. Masters served their slaves. Normal rules were suspended. Chaos reigned. In other words, Saturnalia was less Silent Night and more office Christmas party gone very wrong. Elsewhere in Europe, Germanic and Norse peoples celebrated Yule, a multi-day festival involving bonfires, feasts, evergreen decorations, and honoring gods like Odin, who, incidentally, rode through the winter sky on an 8-legged horse. Yes, that's important later. The point is, by the time Christianity arrived, winter festivals were already deeply embedded in human culture. People weren't about to give them up just because a new religion asked nicely. Enter Christianity. Now here's something that often surprises people. The Bible does not say that Jesus was born on December 25th. In fact, it doesn't give a date at all. Early Christians didn't celebrate Jesus' birth. They were far more focused on his death and resurrection. Birthdays weren't a big theological priority. So why December 25th? Because by the 4th century, Christianity was spreading across the Roman Empire, and the church faced a dilemma. People really liked their winter festivals. Rather than trying to abolish them, the church did something far more effective. It rebranded them. December 25th conveniently lined up with Roman celebrations of the birth of the sun god Sol Invictus, as well as Saturnalia festivities. By placing Christ's birth at this time, Christianity could absorb existing traditions rather than fight them. In short, if you can't beat the party, baptize it. And so Christmas was born, not in a stable, but in a clever bit of religious scheduling. You might imagine early Christmas celebrations as reverent candlelit affairs. You would be wrong. Medieval Christmas was loud, drunken, chaotic, occasionally violent. It lasted not 1 day but 12, hence the 12 days of Christmas, which, by the way, sounds charming until you realize it implies nearly 2 weeks of continuous feasting. There were role reversals, public games, theatrical performances, and something called the Lord of Misrule, a peasant or servant chosen to preside over the festivities and encourage as much nonsense as possible. Churches themselves weren't immune. Some hosted mock sermons, animal processions, and outright parody. Christmas at this point was less about solemn worship and more about letting off steam before the long winter dragged on. Which brings us neatly to the people who absolutely hated this. In the 17th century, a group of deeply serious Protestants known as the Puritans decided that Christmas had gone too far. They disliked the drinking, the gambling, the pagan leftovers, the general vibe of fun. To the Puritans, Christmas was not holy, it was sinful excess disguised as religion. So when they gained political power in England during the 1640s, they did something remarkable. They banned Christmas. Shops were ordered to stay open. Decorations were outlawed. Celebrating Christmas could get you fined or arrested. People were furious. Riots broke out. Secret Christmas dinners were held behind closed doors. In some towns, holly was displayed as a quiet act of rebellion. Eventually, when the monarchy was restored in 1660, Christmas came back with a vengeance. Which just goes to show, if you ban Christmas, people will take it personally. After its dramatic return, Christmas slowly changed. By the 18th century, it had become a more restrained affair, particularly among the upper classes. Public rowdiness declined. Religious observance became more formal. For a while, Christmas risked becoming dull. And then the Victorians happened. The Victorians invent modern Christmas. If your idea of Christmas involves family gatherings, roast dinners, decorated trees, cards, crackers, and sentimental nostalgia, thank the Victorians. In the 19th century, Britain underwent massive social change. Industrialization disrupted family life. Cities grew crowded and impersonal. Childhood as a concept was being redefined. Christmas became the perfect emotional antidote. Queen Victoria and Prince Albert popularized the Christmas tree, a tradition Albert brought from Germany. Once the royal family did it, everyone wanted one. Christmas cards followed, then crackers. Then the idea of Christmas as a time specifically for children, generosity, and moral reflection. And in 1843, Charles Dickens published A Christmas Carol. It's difficult to overstate how influential this book was. Dickens reframed Christmas as a season of compassion, charity, and redemption. He made generosity fashionable. He turned Christmas into a moral event. And he permanently ruined the phrase, bah, humbug. Now let's talk about the man himself. Father Christmas, Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, Odin in disguise. Yes, really. St. Nicholas was a 4th century bishop known for generosity, particularly toward children. His legends spread across Europe, evolving into different gift-bringers. In England, Father Christmas was traditionally a symbol of feasting and good cheer, not gifts for children. In the Netherlands, Santa Claus rode a horse across rooftops. When Dutch settlers brought Santa Claus to America, the name evolved into Santa Claus. Over time, the various traditions blended. Santa gained reindeer, possibly inspired by Norse myths. He moved to the North Pole. He became jolly, rotund, and increasingly red. Contrary to popular belief, Coca-Cola didn't invent Santa, but they did help standardize his modern appearance. So when Santa arrives this Christmas, just remember, he's an ancient bishop, a pagan god, and a marketing triumph rolled into one. As the British Empire expanded, so did Christmas traditions. They travelled to warmer climates, where snow made absolutely no sense, but decorations persisted anyway. Christmas became less tied to winter survival and more to shared ritual. In the 20th century, mass media transformed Christmas again. Films, radio, and television spread a particular image of the holiday, cozy, snowy, emotionally charged. Christmas music became inescapable. Advertisements leaned heavily into nostalgia and family, and somewhere along the way, Christmas became both deeply personal and massively commercial, which leads us to the present day. So what is Christmas really? Christmas today is many things at once. It's a religious celebration, a cultural tradition, a family reunion, a marketing event, a stress test. It carries traces of ancient pagan rituals, medieval chaos, Puritan outrage, Victorian sentimentality, and modern consumerism. And somehow, miraculously, it still works. Because beneath the tinsel and the noise, Christmas taps into something deeply human, the desire for light in darkness. For generosity in hard times. For meaning, connection, and a brief pause in the year to say, this matters. So whether you celebrate Christmas for faith, family tradition, or simply the roast potatoes, know that you're participating in a story thousands of years in the making. Thank you for watching, and Merry Christmas. Now, for something less jolly, be sure to check out my Crusader series, Episode 2 out this Sunday.